devotion. I was more about what I want to do. So let me be very honest here. So don't think that, oh my gosh, what selfless devotion you had. I was more focused on how I can do it. That's all. At that point. And so when I jumped, the first two boys thought I cleared the ring, and they couldn't hold it. They were waiting for every second, so they let go of the ring. But my foot had not cleared it, so my shoes hit the first ring, and then everybody just let go. And all the three rings were around my body as I landed on the ground. And this is the best part. The best part is, again, we didn't have YouTube and Google. When I say Google and YouTube, I look at youngsters automatically. But we didn't have that. So, and we were not yet into sports and things like that there. We were all very new. It's all bhajans and morning, evening, afternoon bhajans. Okay? So this is the first time we're actually doing something sporty for Swami. So no, we didn't have the concept of a t-shirt, you know. So I looked for somebody has anything tight I can wear because I want to do this. So this one guy said, I have a polo neck a t-shirt, you want to call that. And I wore it. I didn't realize that it was polyester. And I thought, anyway, I'm clearing these rings, so it's not a big deal, or whatever it was. I just wore it because it's tight fitting, and so I thought it's easy for me. So I was wearing a polyester when I landed, and all the three rings on my body, I landed. Now there were at least, I think, 10 or 20,000 people that day, because Swami had invited the public on that inauguration, so they were all over the building, terrace, the quadrangle, all of them gasped. The boys gasped. Only one person acted. Guess what? Guess who it was? It's none other than Baba. When I rolled, this is happening so fast, but when I rolled on the ground, I knew this was onto me, and the sparks just started, catching so fast. I wanted to jump out, and the only hand, he said, Bangaru. I looked up, and there was Swami. He held my hand and pulled me, and started rubbing my chest. Bangaru, don't worry. He started rubbing the sparks of my t-shirt. Let's just pause there for a moment and understand. He is wearing silk robes himself. Okay? He is sitting in a jula which was at least 150, 200 feet away. He had sent word to stop it. He saw the warden coming. And later on the boys told me the moment we started running towards the third thing, Swami's jula, Swami sitting in the jula. And the boys were, very gently, how Swami, when he sits in the jula, very graciously, the jula was swinging. Now he had all these boys and command. So he knows something is going to go wrong. He had all these boys who could have said, stop it right now, stop it. And they could have stopped it. Okay? But at that moment, I believe he just jumped out of the swinging jula. He didn't tell them to stop because there was no time. He jumped out of the jula, pulled up his rope, and started walking towards me or running towards me as I was running towards him. So when I landed, he was right there to pull me out of the fire. To me, that is spontaneity of love. It is not about knowing this would happen, he was there. It's not about omniscience at all. If he was omniscient, and he was omniscient, he knew, he could have sent somebody to stop it, right? At that moment, he knew he had to act. And it didn't matter whether his rope could have caught in flames, whether he is such an important person. He was the person, the VIP in that program. Imagine him jumping there to pull me out of the fire. That was a very moving, extremely humbling incident for me. But then, the next day, Swami said, where is the fire boy? My dream was fulfilled. And I never had to look back. Swami asked me my name, and he announced people, that mad boy who jumped to the fire? So I had to probably cross 3 rings of fire and purify this chadar to get his attention. I don't know. But I thought in some way it was symbolic. But for me, more than that, which was at personal level, I learned a lot about why our offering should be as simple. It's not about the offering, it is the intensity behind the offering. And more than anything, I for me, physically understood what he meant by spontaneity of his love. I mean, that is who he was. Now you might think that Baba did this in public, so there were people watching, and there were cameras taking pictures and all that. But let me share with you one more incident to which I was a personal witness, if you will, where there was nobody to watch, and Swami did something very amazing. That was another eye-opener for me. You know, every year that we spend, every day that we spend, our eyes were being opened. There was no end to this eye-opening business. Eyes would pop out. Every time there was something like, wow, where did this come from? I mean, this is some part of Swami we never knew. What happens to us, and I think it's human nature, that you spend a lot of time with him and then things become routine. But with Swami, it was never like that. Every time you'll be on your toes. And there will be something new he will share, just throw you out of your balance. Oh my gosh, what is this Swami did? So there was many years later, once two of us was talking to the warden and Swami's car drove by, and usually he'll pass the hostel and go by. But that morning he decided to drive all the way in and get out of the car. And he got out of the car, he looked at us, there's nobody in the hostel. I mean, all the boys had gone to college. So the situation is, we are standing here talking to the warden and just on our way to teach at Swami's college. This is many years later. And so just as we were leaving, we turn around, we see Swami's white Mercedes-Benz turning, coming right in, and Swami getting out. We just froze. Swami, now? Here? There's nobody here in the hostel. He got out and he said, wasting time, just talking, wasting time. Swami was a very strict disciplinarian. I mean, for him, for him, being in the moment was real. Every 24/7, he was in the moment. He was who he was all about his mission. There was no letting go at all. You know, for us it was fun time and devotion time and all that, right? We segregate times, but for him he was just there all the time. So for him, anything waste of time will be like, what are you wasting time? See? And we just said, Swami. He was terrified that, he's not very happy to see us like this talking, but that was near a sports event on January. This happened. There's a little background, so let's pause here and just go to a little background to the story. There was this boy who was come from a very well-to-do family. He was a big, hefty 6-footer, and he was into karate and everything. And Swami had given him a lot of interviews with his family, and they were all in cloud 9. And Swami said, yes, you can join my college. And so he joined the college that previous June or July, and then after that, Swami started talking to him. You know, Swami has this fantastic thing of giving you all the importance. And he said, there are 2 ways I burst your bubble, right? There are 2 ways I can kill your ego. One is, I will ignore you so much that you will be so small, you will just fizzle away. Which is, again, good only. Or I will pump you up nicely till you burst, like a balloon. So there were different things Swami would do. So he pumped this boy up nicely. The boy was VIP. Oh my gosh, this guy is so close to Swami. Swami talks to him every day. Yeah, he was walking around. And then suddenly Swami decided, okay, let's drop him for a while. So this boy couldn't take it. Then he noticed mosquitoes biting, and I had to sleep on the floor. Oh my God, I had to share a common toilet. This is not going to work for me in the hostel. So everything then hit him. Until then everything was, yeah, it's okay. So he was at a point where he became a negative influence to other boys. At a point where he became so negative, he said, this is worse, man. This is not how it is in UK. It is a whole different life, man, and this and that. So the warden got a little concerned. But, if you're not happy, boy, I think you should go back home. You shouldn't be sitting here and sharing your frustrations with the boys. They may have none of your frustrations. But anyway, this boy was so frustrated and angry that Swami was not talking to him, ignoring him, and plus all this. So when the sports meet came, we decided, you know what, let's ask this boy if he's got some talent. Because I always remember how I got to Swami. So I said, you know what, let's give him some chance. Maybe something he can do. He said he knew karate. I said, good. Why don't you do a karate program? So he was very excited. Yes, I'll do a karate program. Unfortunately, what happened a week into that practice, or 2 weeks into that practice, or just before the sports meet, he tried to kick a brick and break it with his foot or something, and he very badly injured his foot to the extent that it was a huge sore in it that became septic and blah, blah, blah. Now that morning, this boy is lying in the room in the hostel. when this happened. All the boys had gone to college. Now those days we were a shortage of crutches. Those. So every out of every 10 boys, I think one boy will need a crutch during sports meet. Somebody or the other will be getting hurt. So what would happen is there would be our volunteer boys who would carry the crutches with one guy who could go to college and then bring the crutches back to another guy who will go later on to college. So the crutches were in great demand. 2 or 3 pairs would be shared by 6 or 7 people. Because you dare not go and tell Swami we need more crutches. And Swami said, no need of all this. The boys are breaking legs, I don't want all this. So you can't tell him also. I mean, pardon me when I say you can't tell Swami and things like that. I'm just talking in a very physical sense. That's why I said take my experience with a pinch of salt. Because it comes from a blind man. But this is, so nobody would we would tell the doctors, please go and don't tell Swami you want crutches and Swami will stop all our program. We want Swami to come and enjoy it. This boy was waiting for his crutch to come. His foot was so badly injured that he couldn't even hop on the other leg and go, and he wanted to go to the bathroom. For him, that was the point where he came to the edge of the cliff. And God tests you. Your yearning is one thing that leads you to this, right? Consciously or unconsciously, we ask for the tests. You might say, no, I don't want tests, but actually we ask for it. In our yearning, we invoke these tests. It's like examinations. Unless you do your exams, you won't know you got a graduation. You won't know you got a degree, right? We need these exams. And these are circumstances presents itself to you through in any form, in any manner, it could come to you. There could be easy exams, there could be tough exams, but there are exams. We can't escape that. Because when passing an exam or going through an exam, you learn. So there's never a failure in an exam. There's always a learning in spiritual exams. So everything is a welcome, a blessing from Swami. Because you learn from that experience. You might have lost all your money, but you learned something very valuable. You may not have been happy at all. You may be blessed with a child. That's also an exam. In that happiness, are you able to maintain your equanimity and offer this great moment to Swami? Who knows? Every circumstance that seems out of the ordinary is something we invite in our own spiritual path. And it's directly proportionate to our yearning for God. So I think this boy at that point, and I'm speaking for him, so I may not be right, but this is my understanding. I think he was at a point where almost breaking point. Because he's lying there, and this is what he told me later. He said, I'm lying there in this bed, and I'm thinking, this is it. I'm done with this place. I'm completely disappointed with Sai Baba. I've broken my foot. I can't even go to this toilet. And this common toilet, for God, crying out loud. I can't even go out there. This is like a zillion miles away. And I'm done. I don't think there is anybody to hear my prayer. So when he's thinking like that, the door opens and Swami walks in. Because he had told us, talking, right? At morning. And he walked past us, straight headed to the sick room. We had the sick room where all the boys will be put in one place. He headed straight there. Even the workers didn't follow him because he was so quick and so wasting time and walked fast. So we decided to follow him. He said, stop, Undu. The best stop sign ever. You can never go past the stop. There's no rolling stop when Swami does like this. It's the best stop sign ever. We just froze. We didn't know what was going on. So, and he walked straight to it. And the next thing we saw is this huge boy. Swami's got his arm around him and his other arm around this boy's waist and helping him walk. And took him right across to the bathroom. He told us, don't come. You guys don't want to serve. You know what it means taking care of. And he did that for that boy, waited there, brought him back. And like fools, we just stood and watched this whole thing. No cameras were around. This was not done to please devotees or show an example of this is how you should practice selfless love. This was just love in action. This is spontaneous love in action. This is who he was. And that is why he was capable of touching our hearts as youngsters as we live with all our objective approach and our curious minds and intelligence, if you will. He was able to touch something very deep within us simply by being who he was. Even the boys didn't know the story. There was nobody except 4 or 5 of us and some workers who saw this. And he went back. And the boy was changed completely after that. He stayed back for another 5 years. He said something deeper awoke within him. He said, when I really need him, he is there for me. So that's it. I can go on. Do you want to find a break or you just go on? Okay.
Can I have a glass of water?
Sorry, sir.
After I told the story of Radha, nobody wants to say I want to take a break. I think it is very, for me what I've learned being in Baba's presence is that when really push comes to shove in life, when you really need him, not every time you want, you think you need him, but when you really need him, he is there for you. He is holding your hand. He is guiding you. He is taking you to exactly where he wants you to be. He will not let go of you. That is the beauty of a Sadguru. Because a Sadguru is not bound by time and space. He is not bound to the limitations of his body. Even we bind him to his body. We say this is beautiful form of Swami. This is so beautiful. He identifies himself with us, with the inner divinity within us. He identifies himself with everything that is around us. He is beyond the senses. Brahmanandam Paramasatadam. Kevalam Jnanamurtam. There is a Adi Shankara was 2000 years ago described who a Sadguru is. And he said, Sadguru, I want to offer my salutations. And each of them has a powerful quality and it applies so happily to Swami. Brahmananda. Brahmanandam. One who is established in the Ananda of Brahman, an infinite consciousness. He finds true happiness in Brahmananda. Paramasukhadam. Always content. Always content. Kevalam. Focused in that one objective. Kevalam. Jnanamurtim. Embodiment of knowledge. Dvandvatikam. One transcends duality. Gagana sadrisham. One whose vision is as expansive as the sky. Tattvam asyati laksham. Tattvam asi. Thou art that. That is his goal. That is his mission. Baba says, you are divine, I am divine too. Thou art that. Asyati laksham. His lakshya is tattvam asi. Ekam, only one. Nityam, permanent. Vimalam, purity. Achalam, unshakable. Sarvadi, sakshi bhutam. Eternal witness to everything that passes by. He is merely a witness. Goes ups and downs, he stands and desires to watch. Bhavatitam. One who is beyond bhavas. There is no emotion. Beyond emotion, beyond feeling. Trigunararitam. One who is devoid of the three gunas. Satguna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna. He is beyond all that. Beyond quality, beyond change, pure essence. Sadguru Lamkama. To that Guru, that Sadguru, I bow. The beauty of devotion, why Swami insists on Namasmara, is because when we contemplate on this with meaning, we understand. Thousands of years ago, people spoke Sanskrit. They expressed their emotions in Sanskrit, they wrote in Sanskrit, they thought in Sanskrit, they dreamt in Sanskrit. So they offered prayers in Sanskrit. Today, if we are singing in English, we dream in English, we speak English, then we can offer our prayers in English. We don't have to borrow some age-old words and mantras which we don't understand. Devotion is when you meditate on these qualities, and as you think of these qualities become a part of you. And you, without your own knowledge, become divine. You become part of Swami simply by thinking. That is why we equate Radha and Krishna himself, right? Why? Because she was lost in the thought of Krishna, eventually became one with Krishna. The consciousness just became one with Krishna. Meera initially yearned for Krishna, ran on the streets, where is my Krishna? Where is my Krishna? And then finally said, Payo ji maine Ram Ratna Dhan Payo. Finally I realized Krishna has given me Chalo man ya Ganga Yamuna Tir. Your mind just go within your own source. That's the source of Yamuna and Ganga and everything. Krishna is right there. Hanuman is equal to Rama. Why? Because in the thought of Rama, in the chant of Rama's name, he became one with Rama himself. A monkey. If a monkey can evolve just by pure devotion, by pure contemplation, why can't you and I do the same? Losing ourselves in the thought of God, singing His glory, listening to His glory. There was a king called Parikshit. He was a great grandson of Krishna. And he said, oh my gosh, my family had all this, please tell me stories. And just listening to these stories, he became one with the universal consciousness. That is the power of devotion. You don't have to sit and meditate for 3 hours, 4 to 6 in the morning and fix your alarm and say, oh my God, I have to pray, please forgive me, and be lazy. No. So in my very first interview, I asked Swami sadhana, what sadhana? Chant Swami's name. Namasmarana Chant. Swami went Swami, because I was into this yoga meditation thing. Went Swami, I thought morning 2 hours, evening 2 hours, Swami would say, morning 3 times, evening 3 times. And Swami was, this was instinctive. Swami sadhana, hey sadhana, Namasmarana Chant. Swami Namasmarana, when Yapuda. When? What do you mean when? Yakadana, Epudana Chant. Bathroom lo kitchen lo bedroom lo ekkadana chant. Anywhere you are, wherever you are. Sarvatra sarva kaleshu hari nam chintanam. That's what he said. Anytime, wherever you are, chant the name of God. What the where? Then? Why do you need time to chant God's name? And then of course he calmed down. He said, okay, I'm scaring this boy too much. But that was a fervor which he suddenly came to. And I think that is the power of chanting God's name. It doesn't matter what language you chant. And the reason I say is because we think, oh, we have to learn Veda chanting to evolve spiritually. Yes, that is, part of the sadhana. If you want, if you're interested, explore it, understand it, and assimilate it. There's no harm in it. But that does not stop you from just simply sitting and saying, oh God, I don't know about this prayer, I don't know about this meditation, but I need you. And if your heart seriously yearns, there is no possible reason why the divine will not stop himself. Why will he stop himself from coming to you? I'm telling you this from personal experience. An experience after leaving Puttaparthi, being in the world, being tossed around, just like all of us are. Puttaparthi, we are very protected. It's very easy to practice love, meditation, and sadhana in Puttaparthi. Right? Outside, there's no mortgage to pay. No business ever collapse in Puttaparthi. Maybe outside the ashram, but your whole goal, it's like Swami said, you are like oak trees, banyan trees. In banyan trees, Swami uses the example of banyan tree because it's India, banyan tree is a huge tree. He says you all are like banyan trees. One day you will provide shade to the cows and the cattle. But today, that very same cattle will eat you. So I have to protect you here. And what a beautiful example. Just because the little banyan tree, when it's in a state of growth, you have to protect it from the cattle, from the cows who otherwise chew it and eat it, right? But when it grows up, the very same cattle and cows who could have eaten will seek shade. But there's a time for them. And since He protected us, helped us grow, helped us find our roots inside, made us believe who we were, what we wanted to do with our lives. At least for many of us who wanted that. Kept himself as an open book for us to understand, study, examine. You want an example? Here I am. Take me, watch me, learn from me. And then, when it was ready, we came out. But even then, let me tell you, the storm has shaken the street. I don't claim my roots. My roots are very firmly planted in Swami's fold. I say this with a lot of humility, but at the same time with a lot of faith and determination. I never ever question any circumstances that, "Kyun Bhagwan, why is this for me? Ye mere se aisa kyun hota hai?" I never question that. I question, "Main kaun hu? Puchne wala. Who am I to ask? This is your prasad, I take it. This is a good experience. Why am I getting this experience? Why have I invited this into my life? Maybe this is for my growth, so let me go through this fully. If this is a bitter medicine I have to swallow, then it's a bitter pill, let me do it." In the most weak moments of my life, I just yearn, I say, just be with me. Just make me aware of your presence. I know you are with me, but I want to be aware of your presence. Once, Swami told me, just again, talking to boys and gentlemen, not specific to me like that, but he looked at me and he said, "I will never let go of anybody." I said, "Swami, please don't let go of me." He said, "No, I will never. Juttu pattunna means your hair. I'm getting a tough time now." But he caught my hair then, and he said, "I will never let go. If I hold your hand, you will take it away. But if I'll hold your hair. I will never let go. You will cry to allow me to let you go. I will never let you go. Right? I will never leave." I love that when he did that. But that is how he is. When a Sadguru adopts you, believe me, he is giving you and preparing you for the highest gift that you can ever imagine. The highest gift, far greater than what you have been asked for. So that when the times seem tough, when it seems that he's not responding, just go within and say, "Make me aware of your presence." Just make me aware of your presence. Like a child who just is crying because of the doctor's injection, she doesn't know. She just crawls to the lap of the mother and lies down because that's all she wants, comfort. Just ask God to provide you that comfort. He provides you, but ask Him to make you aware. And that once that awareness comes, you feel the warmth and the comfort. And that is an opening. And then you start saying, "Thank you, God." Before we go to the thank you part, let me offer this beautiful song sung by Brahmanand, "Jo Bhaje Hari Ko Sada." Because the song again means that whoever chants the name of Hari, whoever loses himself in the thought of Hari, he's the one who's going to reach the highest and the supreme knowledge. And he says, "Hey, you know what? All these japmalas and these tilaks that you wear in your body, these marks on your forehead and these rituals that you do, all this is not going to save you. Unless your heart is filled with prema, that is love. Unless your heart is filled with bhakti or devotion, these are not going to help you. Just mere chanting names and some kind of rituals are not going to help you. God you will find only when your heart is filled with love and devotion." And so he says, clean your heart. Clean your heart. Why? What? Clean your heart of the reflection of your ego. Get the ego out of the way. Get out. Let go and let God, right? It's a beautiful quote. Let go and let God. Let Him take over. Clean your heart and allow God to express Himself right there. And that can be done in intense faith and seeking solace just with God. That is the essence of the song. I love the song and I hope I can do justice to it. जो भजे हरि को सदा सोई परम पद पाएगा जो भजे हरि को सदा सोई परम पद पाएगा जो भजे हरि को सदा सोई परम पद पाएगा। जो भजे हरि को सदा सोई परम पद पाएगा। देह के माला तिलक और छाप नहीं कछु काम के। देह के माला तिलक और छाप नहीं कछु काम के। प्रेम भक्ति के बिना, प्रेम भक्ति के बिना नहीं नाथ के मन पाएगा। जो भले हरि को सदा सोई परम पद पाएगा। दिल के दर्पण को सफा कर दूर कर अभिमान को। दिल के दर्पण को सफा कर दूर कर अभिमान को। खाक हो गुरु के कदम की, खाक हो गुरु के कदम की, तो प्रभु मिल जाएगा। जो भजे हरि को सदा सोई परम पद पाएगा। छोड़ दुनिया के मजे सब बैठ कर एकांत में। Sit alone, let the world go by. छोड़ दुनिया के मजे सब बैठ कर एकांत में। ओम हरि ओम, ओम हरि ओम। छोड़ दुनिया के मजे सब बैठ कर एकांत में। ध्यान धर हरि के चरण का, ध्यान धर हरि के चरण का, फिर जन्म नहीं आएगा। जो भजे हरि को सदा सोई परम पद पाएगा। दृढ़ भरोसा मन करके जो जपे हरि नाम को। दृढ़ भरोसा मन में करके जो जपे साई नाम को। कहता ब्रह्मानंद, कहता ब्रह्मानंद, ब्रह्मानंद बीच समाएगा। जो भजे हरि को सदा सोई परम पद पाएगा। This is beautiful, a beautiful composition by Swami Brahmanand, who lived centuries ago.